"Buy me, cowboy, I will make sure you are satisfied," said the Apache woman on sale. The twin suns of Dustfall Station hung low in the sky, painting the wide market plains in gold and red. Long shadows stretched across metal stalls, cloth tents, and hovering platforms where traders from 100 worlds gathered to sell their goods. The air was filled with strange sounds, alien voices, the hum of machines, and the steady wind carrying fine sand across the ground. Among the crowd walked a man people called the Cowboy. His real name had been forgotten by most, even by himself. He wore a long, weathered coat made from earth leather, dusty boots, and a wide-brimmed hat that shielded his eyes from the harsh light. A small pack rested on his back, and at his side hung a simple tool blaster, more for cutting and fixing than for fighting. He had come to Dustfall Station for supplies, water filters, and a new power cell for his ship. He planned to leave before the next sandstorm rolled in from the east. He moved carefully through the market, watching everything and everyone. On a frontier world like this, trust was rare and danger often hid behind friendly smiles. That was when he heard her voice. It was strong and clear, cutting through the noise of the market like a bell. "Buy me, cowboy, I will make sure you are satisfied." People nearby turned their heads, curious and amused. The cowboy stopped walking and slowly looked toward the sound. At a small stall made of metal poles and glowing panels stood a woman. She had dark hair tied back with a strip of blue cloth and sharp eyes that seemed to study everyone at once. Her clothes were simple but clean, and around her neck hung a small symbol carved from stone, a sign of Earth heritage. A glowing sign above her stall showed words in many languages, skills for hire, navigation, survival, star MAPS. The cowboy raised an eyebrow. He stepped closer, careful but curious. She met his eyes without fear. "You look like someone who travels far and alone," she said. "I offer knowledge, not trouble." He glanced at the sign, then back at her. "That's a bold way to get attention," he replied. A small smile touched her lips. "Out here, quiet words are lost in the wind." Around them, a few alien traders muttered and went back to their business. The moment passed, but the cowboy stayed. "What's your name?" he asked. "People call me Taza," she said. "My family came from Earth long before this world had a name." He nodded. "And you're selling yourself?" "I'm offering a contract," she corrected. "My skills, my guidance, my eyes and ears in places others can't go. You hire me, I help you survive." He studied her for a moment. There was something steady about her, something honest. Not the kind of look someone had when they were desperate or lying. Before he could speak again, a low, deep sound rolled across the market. Heavy footsteps. The crowd shifted and pulled away as a group of tall, armored figures moved through the stalls. Their armor was dark and smooth, marked with a silver symbol, the mark of the Black Sun Syndicate. The cowboy felt his hand drift closer to his belt. Taza's eyes narrowed. "They've found me," she said quietly. The armored figures stopped a short distance away. One of them stepped forward, its voice cold and metallic. "You are under contract," it said to Taza. "Return to the station offices." "I don't belong to you," she replied. The cowboy looked between them. "Sounds like a private matter." The figure turned its helmet toward him. "This does not concern you, human." Taza took a step back, closer to the cowboy. "They take people like me," she whispered. "They sell our work, our knowledge. They keep us moving so we can never build a home." The cowboy felt something old and familiar rise in his chest. He had seen this kind of thing before on other worlds in other forms. He tipped his hat slightly and spoke. "I think it concerns me now." The armored figure raised its arm and the market guards began to move. The crowd scattered, stalls closing and lights dimming as panic spread. "Run," Taza said. They didn't wait. The cowboy grabbed her wrist, and they pushed through the maze of stalls, leaping over crates and sliding past startled traders. The sound of heavy boots followed behind them, steady and fast. They reached the edge of the market where old transport vehicles were parked in long rows. The cowboy spotted a small hover truck with a cracked window and an open power port. "Can you drive?" he asked. Taza nodded. He pulled open the door, and they jumped inside just as a blast of energy hit the ground where they had been standing. The truck roared to life, and Taza slammed the controls forward. They shot across the sand, wind tearing at their clothes as the market disappeared behind them. The armored figures fired again, but the blasts fell short. For a long moment, only the sound of the engine and the rushing air filled the space between them. Finally, Taza let out a breath. "You didn't have to do that." The cowboy leaned back in his seat. "I know." They drove until the station was a small shape on the horizon. The land around them was empty, broken only by tall stone shapes and glowing plants that shimmered in the fading light. They stopped near a rocky outcrop where the wind was calmer. Taza turned to him. "Why did you help me?" he thought for a moment. "Because nobody should be owned, not by a syndicate, not by a system, not by anyone." She studied him, then nodded slowly. "Then maybe you are the right one." "For what?" he asked. She reached into her pack and pulled out a small, round device. Its surface glowed with faint blue lines. "This is a star map," she said. "Not a normal one. It leads to a lost colony ship, thousands of humans drifting between systems. The syndicate wants it." "I want to find it first." The cowboy felt the weight of her words. "That's a big job." "I can't do it alone," she said. "But you have a ship, and you have a look about you that says you don't turn away from hard roads." He looked out at the stars just beginning to appear in the dark sky. He had planned to leave Dustfall and head somewhere quiet, somewhere simple. Instead, a new path opened in front of him, wide and uncertain. He turned back to her. "What does the contract say?" A small smile returned to her face. "We help each other, we watch each other's backs, and we don't stop until the job is done." He held out his hand. "Sounds fair to me." She shook it, her grip strong and steady. Above them, the stars seemed to burn brighter, as if watching two small figures at the edge of a wide and waiting galaxy. The cowboy and Taza sat by the quiet hovertruck, knowing that this moment was only the beginning of something much larger than either of them had planned. Somewhere far away, a lost ship drifted in the dark. The stars above Dustfall slowly faded as the light of morning crept across the land. The cowboy stood beside his ship, a small but strong star runner that had carried him across more worlds than he could remember. Its metal sides were scratched and worn, but the engine still purred like a loyal animal. He had parked it behind a line of tall stone pillars, hidden from any eyes that might be searching. Taza walked around the ship, studying it with careful interest. She touched the side, feeling the warmth from the power core inside. "She's old," Taza said. "She's honest," the cowboy replied. "That's more than I can say for most things out here." They loaded their packs into the cargo hold. The cowboy checked the fuel levels, the navigation screen, and the long-range scanner. Everything was working, but the map Taza had shown him was something different from anything he had ever seen. The glowing lines on the small round device moved on their own, shifting like living light. They pointed not to a normal system, but to a dark space between known star paths. "The lost places," the cowboy muttered. "That's where people disappear," Taza said. "And sometimes where they survive." As they prepared to leave, a soft sound came from the scanner. The cowboy frowned and leaned closer to the screen. "Someone is looking for us," he said. Taza's shoulders tensed. "The syndicate, most likely." The cowboy climbed into the pilot's seat. Taza took the co-pilot's chair, her hands resting calmly on her knees, even though her eyes showed worry. The engines roared to life, and the ship lifted into the air, sand and dust spinning beneath them. They rose into the sky, past the thin clouds, and then into the open dark of space. The stars stretched and blurred as the ship jumped into faster-than-light travel. For a while, neither of them spoke. The soft hum of the ship filled the space between them. Finally, Taza broke the silence. "My people used to say the stars were campfires of the ancestors, that they watched us from far away." The cowboy smiled slightly. "I like that. My grandmother told me stories of Earth," she continued. "Of wide plains, rivers that never seemed to end, and skies without shields or domes. She said humans were meant to walk under open stars, not hide beneath metal ceilings." He nodded. "Sounds like something worth fighting for." They dropped out of the jump near a quiet system. The stars here were dim, and the space felt heavy, like it was holding its breath. The map glowed brighter. "According to this," Taza said, "the colony ship passed through here years ago. It used an old travel route that most people forgot." The cowboy guided the ship forward, following the map's path. Strange shapes floated in the distance, pieces of old stations, broken ships, and silent machines drifting in the dark. "Looks like a graveyard," he said. "Or a hiding place," Taza replied. They flew deeper into the field of floating metal and stone. The ship's scanner beeped softly, picking up weak signals, old power sources, and faint energy trails. Then suddenly the scanner flashed bright red. "Something behind us," the cowboy said. On the screen, 3 dark shapes appeared, sleek ships marked with the silver symbol of the Black Sun Syndicate. "They followed us," Taza whispered. The cowboy pushed the controls forward, sending the ship weaving through the floating debris. The syndicate ships followed, smooth and fast. The space around them became a maze. Broken towers, long metal beams, and shattered platforms drifted in every direction. The cowboy steered with careful hands, using the environment instead of speed. "They're better ships," Taza said. "Maybe," he replied, "but they don't know this place like we do." He guided the ship through a narrow gap between two massive pieces of wreckage. The syndicate ships tried to follow, but one scraped against the metal, slowing down. The cowboy smiled. Sometimes old paths are the best paths. They reached a wide open space, and the map glowed brighter than ever. In the center of the darkness, a faint light appeared. "There," Taza said. "That's it." As they drew closer, the shape of a massive ship appeared. It was huge, larger than any station the cowboy had seen. Its surface was dark, but small lights still glimmered across it like stars on a night sky. "The colony ship," he breathed. They flew toward it, but the syndicate ships were still behind them. The cowboy opened a channel and sent a signal to the colony ship. "This is a human vessel. We're friendly. Do you read us?" For a moment, there was only silence. Then a soft voice came through the speakers. "We hear you." Taza closed her eyes in relief. The colony ship's lights grew brighter, and a large door opened along its side. "Dock with us," the voice said. "We will protect you." The cowboy guided the ship into the opening just as the syndicate ships reached the edge of the light. The door closed behind them, cutting off the dark. Inside the colony ship, the air was warm and clean. The walls were lined with plants, and soft light filled the wide docking bay. A group of people waited for them. Humans of all ages wearing simple clothes, their faces showing both caution and hope. An older woman stepped forward. "Welcome," she said. "We have been waiting a long time for someone to find us." Taza stepped beside the cowboy. "You've been hiding." "We've been surviving," the woman replied. "The galaxy forgot us, but we did not forget ourselves." The cowboy felt something deep inside him settle. This was what Taza had been searching for. This was what the syndicate wanted to control. Outside, the colony ship's defense systems came to life. The syndicate ships circled, but they did not attack. The light from the colony ship was strong, and the message was clear. Inside, the people began to gather around Taza and the cowboy, asking questions, offering water and food, sharing stories of long journeys and hard choices. Taza looked around, her eyes shining. "You're free," she said softly. The older woman nodded. "Because we chose to be." The cowboy leaned against the wall, watching the people move and talk. He realized that this was only the beginning. The syndicate would not give up easily. The galaxy would not change overnight. But here, in this hidden place among the stars, humanity had built something simple and strong. A home. And now, two travelers from a dusty market under twin suns had become part of something much bigger than themselves. Far away, beyond the light of the colony ship, the syndicate ship slowly turned and disappeared into the dark. But the cowboy knew they would return. The colony ship moved slowly through the quiet dark, its great engines humming like a deep, steady heartbeat. Inside, light-filled wide halls made of smooth metal and living plants. Vines climbed along the walls, and small water streams ran through clear channels in the floor. It did not feel like a ship. It felt like a small world floating between the stars. The cowboy walked beside Taza as they followed the older woman through the long corridors. People passed them, smiling and nodding, some stopping to look with open curiosity. Children ran past, laughing, their footsteps echoing softly. "They have built a life here," the cowboy said quietly. Taza nodded. "Not just a shelter, a future." They entered a large open room where soft light fell from the ceiling like gentle sunlight. In the center stood a wide table made from polished metal and wood brought from many different worlds. Several leaders of the colony waited there, their faces calm but serious. The older woman turned and faced them. "My name is Mara," she said. "I speak for our people." "You brought trouble to our door, but you also brought hope." The cowboy tilted his hat slightly. "We didn't mean to lead anyone here," Mara smiled. "Danger has a way of finding those who choose to stand out. Please sit." They took seats at the table. Taza placed her star map device in the center. Its blue lines glowed softly, lighting the faces around them. "The syndicate wants this ship," Taza said. "They want your people, your knowledge, your work." Mara's eyes hardened. "We know, that is why we stayed hidden." The cowboy leaned forward. "Hiding only works for so long." A quiet murmur passed through the group. Myra nodded. We have debated this for years. Some want to stay in the dark, some want to reach out. The galaxy is not kind to those without power. Taza spoke softly. But humans have something stronger than power. We have each other. Silence followed her words. Myra studied her. You carry your people's voice with you. Taza lowered her eyes. I try. The meeting ended with no clear answer, only a promise to talk again. As they left the room, the cowboy felt the weight of what lay ahead. The colony was safe for now, but the light it carried would draw attention. They spent the next days walking through the ship. The cowboy helped repair old machines and fix power lines. Taza spoke with families, listening to their stories. Some had been born on the ship and had never seen a real planet. Others remembered Earth from stories passed down through generations. One evening, they stood near a wide window that looked out into space. The stars were thick and bright like a river of light. My grandfather used to say humans were wanderers, Taza said, that we were meant to move, to explore, to learn. The cowboy smiled. And to cause trouble for anyone who tries to cage us. She laughed softly. Their quiet moment was broken by a soft alarm. The ship's lights dimmed slightly, then returned. The cowboy's hand went to his belt out of habit. That didn't sound good. A voice came over the ship's speakers. All leaders and visitors, please come to the main hall. They hurried back to the large open room. A screen lit up on the far wall, showing space outside the ship. A shape appeared on the screen, not a syndicate ship. It was larger, different, smooth and bright, marked with symbols that glowed like flowing water. Myra frowned. That is not the Black Sun. A new voice filled the hall, calm and clear. Colony vessel, we greet you. We are the Loom. We have followed your light. Taza whispered, another species. The cowboy crossed his arms. Let's hope they're friendly. Myra stepped forward. This is a human colony ship. State your purpose. The Loom ship sent a beam of soft light toward the colony ship. The systems did not react as a threat. It was a signal, not a weapon. We are travelers, the Loom voice said. We seek those who build, not those who take. Your ship carries life, not trade. That is rare. The room filled with quiet whispers. Myra turned to the cowboy and Taza. It seems your light has reached farther than we expected. After a long moment, she nodded. We will speak with them. The Loom ship docked with the colony vessel. From it came tall, glowing beings made of soft light and solid form. Their movements were slow and gentle, their eyes like small stars. The cowboy felt a strange calm around them. One of the Loom stepped forward. We have seen many worlds fall to those who claim ownership over life. We do not agree with this way. Taza met its gaze. Neither do we. The Loom's light brightened. Then we are alike. They spoke for hours, sharing stories of lost worlds, broken systems, and small groups that had chosen to stand free. The Loom offered something unexpected. We have hidden paths through the stars, the being said. Ways to move unseen. Ways to connect those who wish to remain free. Mara's breath caught. You would share this with us? Yes, the Loom replied, because freedom grows when it is shared. The cowboy leaned back, amazed. A simple choice at a dusty market had led to this moment. Humans and another species standing together in the quiet of space. But peace never lasted long. The colony ship's scanners lit up again. This time the screen filled with dark shapes. The Black Sun Syndicate had returned. Mara closed her eyes for a moment. They do not give up. The Loom turned to the screen. We will not fight for you, but we will stand with you. The cowboy felt a strange warmth in his chest. Sometimes that's enough. The colony ship did not run. It did not hide. Instead, it broadcast a message across every open channel. This is a human colony, Mara said into the transmitter. We are not for sale. We are not for trade. We are not owned. The message spread across nearby systems, carried by the Loom's hidden paths. On distant worlds, humans heard the call. Taza stood beside the cowboy, her hand resting lightly on the table. This is bigger than us now, he nodded. Always was. The syndicate ship stopped at the edge of the colony ship's light. They did not move closer. The message had reached more than just humans. Other ships began to appear, small ones, old ones. Ships marked with many symbols from many species. They came to watch. They came to listen. The cowboy realized something in that moment. The galaxy was not as cold and empty as it seemed. It was full of people waiting for a reason to stand. And sometimes all it took was one small light in the dark to show the way. Taza looked out at the growing crowd of ships and smiled. My grandmother would have loved this. The cowboy tipped his hat. Sounds like she had good taste in stars. Above them, the colony ship glowed brighter than ever, not as a beacon of power, but as a promise. A promise that no matter how wide and wild the galaxy became, humanity would never walk it alone. The space around the colony ship felt different now. Where once there had been only silence and fear of being found, there was now movement, quiet voices, and shared purpose. Ships of many shapes and sizes floated nearby, keeping a respectful distance, but staying close enough to show support. None of them carried the marks of the Black Sun Syndicate. These were travelers, traders, families, and wanderers who had heard the message and chosen to listen. Inside the colony ship, the air was busy but calm. People moved through the halls with new energy. Meetings happened in open rooms. Children sat with elders, listening to stories not just of survival, but of choices. The cowboy stood near a window, looking out at the gathered ships. He had never liked crowds, even in space, but this felt different. This was not noise. This was presence. Taza joined him, holding 2 cups of warm drink made from ship-grown herbs. She handed one to him. "You look like you're thinking too much," she said. "That's my natural state," he replied, taking a slow sip. She smiled. "Mara wants to see us." They walked together through the corridors toward the main hall. Along the way, people nodded to them with respect. Not because they were leaders, but because they had been there at the start. Mara stood near a wide table covered in glowing star maps. The blue lines moved slowly, showing hidden paths, known routes, and danger zones. The loom representatives stood nearby, their soft light steady and calm. "We need to decide what comes next," Myra said as the cowboy and Taza approached. "The syndicate has not attacked, but they are watching, waiting." The cowboy crossed his arms. "They always wait. They think time is on their side." Taza looked at the map. "But it doesn't have to be." One of the looms stepped forward. "Fear grows when people feel alone. Your message has done the opposite." Myra nodded. "More signals are coming in, human settlements, small groups. Even individuals hiding on worlds they do not own." The cowboy raised an eyebrow. "They're looking for a place to stand." "Yes," Mara said, "and they are asking if we are that place." Silence filled the room as the weight of her words settled. Taza spoke first. "This ship cannot hold everyone, but it can be a center, a meeting point." The cowboy nodded slowly. "A town, not a fortress." Mara smiled faintly. "That is what I was hoping you would say." They spent hours planning, not battles, not defenses, but connections, safe routes. Shared resources, ways to warn each other when the syndicate moved. The loom offered guidance, not control. They showed paths that could hide entire fleets if needed, but also paths that could connect worlds quietly. As the meeting ended, the cowboy felt something he had not felt in a long time. Purpose. Later, he found himself in the lower levels of the ship, where old observation decks looked out into open space. The lights were dim, and the stars seemed closer here. A young boy sat alone, staring out the window. He couldn't have been more than 10. The cowboy paused, then walked over. "Pretty view," the cowboy said. The boy nodded. "I like the quiet." "Me too." The boy glanced up. "You're the cowboy, right?" "That's what people call me." "You're not afraid of the syndicate?" The cowboy thought for a moment. "I am, but fear doesn't get to make my choices." The boy smiled. "I want to be like that." The cowboy tipped his hat. "You already are, you're still here." Not long after, alarms sounded again. Not sharp or loud, but steady. A signal alert. Myra's voice came over the speakers. "All leaders and visitors, please report." In the main hall, the star map showed new movement. The Black Sun Syndicate ships were repositioning, not attacking, but blocking routes. Quiet pressure. "They are trying to isolate us," Taza said. "They want us to feel trapped," the cowboy added. One of the loom tilted its head slightly. "A common method." Myra took a deep breath. "Then we do not respond with fear." She turned to the communication console. "Open all channels." The cowboy watched as Myra stood tall and calm. "This is Myra of the Free Human Colony," she said. "We see you, we know what you are doing, and we are not alone." Behind her, the screens showed ships lighting up. Not weapons, lights, signals, identifiers, hundreds of them. Human voices followed, one after another. "This is Ridgefall Outpost, we hear you." "This is the Dawn Path Convoy." "This is New Mesa." "This is Earthborn." The cowboy felt his chest tighten. The syndicate ships held their position. For the first time, they did not advance or threaten. They simply watched. The loom spoke softly. "You are changing the shape of the space around you, not with force, with choice." Time passed, hours, then days. The syndicate tried different methods, false signals. Offers of trade, promises of safety. Each one was calmly refused. Inside the colony ship, life continued. People worked. Children learned. Elders taught skills long thought forgotten. Farming techniques, old languages, music from Earth played softly in shared spaces. Taza spent her days recording stories. She believed memory was a kind of shield. The cowboy helped train pilots to fly through debris fields and old routes. He never called it training. He called it sharing mistakes. One evening, he and Taza sat together near the docking bay, watching ships come and go. "Do you ever wish you had just kept walking that day in the market?" she asked. He chuckled. "Every time my life gets complicated. And now." He looked around at the ship, the people, the stars beyond. "Now I'm glad I stopped." A message arrived late in the cycle, not from the Syndicate. It was from a human station deep in Syndicate space. The signal was weak but clear enough. "They are watching us," the message said. "They are learning from you. Please do not stop." Mara read the message aloud. No one spoke afterward. Finally, Taza said, "We won't." The cowboy nodded. "People don't forget who stands up first." The Black Sun Syndicate eventually pulled back some of their ships. Not because they had lost, but because they had gained something worse than resistance. They had gained witnesses. As the colony ship slowly shifted position, moving along one of the loom's hidden paths, the cowboy stood once more by the window. The stars moved gently like a river changing course. Taza joined him again. "Do you think this will last?" she asked. He smiled softly. "Nothing lasts forever, but some things last long enough to matter." She nodded, satisfied. Far behind them, the old idea that humans could be owned began to crack. Not loudly, not all at once, but enough that the sound carried. And somewhere out there, more people were listening. The galaxy did not change in a single day. But it had begun to lean in a new direction. The colony ship drifted through a quiet stretch of space where the stars looked softer, like distant lanterns floating in a wide, dark sea. The hidden path the loom had shown them curved gently between systems, away from busy trade lanes and away from the long reach of the Black Sun Syndicate. It was not a road of escape. It was a road of choice. Inside the ship, life moved with a calm and steady rhythm. People woke to soft light and warm air. They worked in the gardens, in the engine halls, and in the classrooms where children learned about planets they had never seen and histories that stretched back to Earth itself. The cowboy walked through the halls, his boots making a familiar sound against the metal floor. He no longer felt like a stranger here. He still kept his hat and his coat, still slept in his ship when he could, but the faces he passed were now faces he knew. Taza was in the memory room, a wide space filled with screens, old books, and glowing panels that held recorded stories. She was speaking with an elderly man whose hands shook slightly as he held a small, worn object. "It was my mother S," he said. "She carried it from Earth to the first colony ship, and then to this one." Taza recorded his words carefully. "Every story matters," she said, "even the quiet ones." The man smiled. "Especially the quiet ones." The cowboy watched from the doorway for a moment, then moved on. He headed toward the main observation deck, where Mara often stood looking out at the stars. She was there now, her hands folded behind her back. "You walk like someone who is thinking about leaving," she said without turning. The cowboy chuckled. "Is it that obvious?" She turned and smiled gently. "You were never meant to stay in one place for too long." He leaned against the railing. "This place doesn't feel like just one place anymore." Mara nodded. "It isn't. Signals are going out and coming back every day. Small groups are finding each other. Worlds that thought they were alone are starting to talk." The cowboy looked at the stars. "And the Syndicate? They still exist," she said. "But they are being careful. Too many eyes are on them now." That night, a gathering was held in the central hall. Not a meeting, not a plan, just people coming together. Lights glowed softly above them. Music from Earth and other worlds filled the air. Children danced. Elders told stories. Loom visitors stood quietly at the edges, their gentle light mixing with the warm colors of the hall. Taza stood near the center, holding her recording device. The cowboy stood beside her, arms crossed, watching with a small smile. "This is what I wanted to find," Taza said quietly. "A lost ship," he asked. She shook her head. "A place where people don't have to hide who they are." Later, as the gathering faded into quiet conversations and tired laughter, a message arrived. It was not urgent. It was not afraid. It was an invitation. A human settlement on a far world, once under heavy Syndicate control, had opened its space lanes. They were offering a meeting place, a market, a place where contracts were for goods and skills, not for people. Myra read the message aloud. The room was silent for a long moment, then someone clapped. Another joined. Soon the hall was filled with sound. The cowboy felt a strange warmth in his chest. "Looks like you started something," he said to Taza. She smiled. "We all did." In the days that followed, ships began to depart and arrive. Not in fear, in purpose. Some carried seeds, some carried tools, some carried nothing but people and their stories. The cowboy prepared his own ship. He checked the engines, packed his supplies, and filled his water tanks. He knew it was time. Taza found him in the docking bay, standing beside his Star Runner. "You're leaving," she said. "Not far," he replied. "Just far enough to keep the road honest." She laughed softly. "You could stay," he shook his head. "Someone has to walk the edges, make sure the light doesn't stop." She stepped closer. "Then take this." She handed him a small copy of the star map, not the glowing device. A simple, solid version etched into a metal disc. "So you can always find your way back," she said. He took it, his hand closing around it carefully. "I will." They stood in silence for a moment. "You changed my path," Taza said. "You changed mine," he replied. They shook hands, then surprised each other by pulling into a brief, strong embrace. The cowboy climbed into his ship. The engines came to life with a familiar hum. Mara and several others stood nearby, watching. "Safe travels," Mara called. The cowboy tipped his hat. "Keep the door open." The ship lifted away from the colony vessel, turning slowly toward the open stars. As he flew, he tuned his receiver to the open channels. Voices filled the space around him. Human voices, loom voices, voices from worlds he had never heard of before. They were not calling for help. They were sharing news, stories, and simple greetings. On a distant world, the Black Sun Syndicate watched the change spread. Their ships still moved. Their systems still worked. But their old power, built on silence and isolation, was fading. People were talking now. People were choosing. The cowboy flew on, passing through quiet systems and bright ones. He stopped at small stations and large cities. He fixed engines, shared maps, and told stories about a colony ship that chose to shine instead of hide. Some listened. Some didn't, but enough did. One day he landed on a wide, open plain under a single blue sun. The air was clean. The land was empty. He stepped out of his ship and took off his hat, letting the light touch his face. He planted a small marker in the ground, not a claim. Just a sign. It showed a simple symbol, a star, and a line beneath it, "Not for sale." Far away, Taza stood in the memory room, recording a new story. "This is the story of how humans stopped running," she said into the device. "Not by fighting, but by standing together." Children listened. Elders nodded. The loom watched with gentle light. The galaxy did not become perfect. It did not become safe everywhere, but it became wider, kinder in small places, braver in quiet moments. And in the spaces between the stars where travelers once felt alone, there were now signs of life. Lights, voices, open doors. The cowboy's ship became one of many moving through the dark, carrying a simple message from world to world. Humans are not owned. They are not sold. They are not silent. They are travelers, builders, and keepers of their own stories.